Welcome to the Health Design Leadership Podcast with author, speaker, and leadership coach Carol Phillips. We're here to help you sharpen your leadership skills and discover the best ways to build great teams. So sit back and enjoy this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with your host, Coach Carol.
Hello, leaders. I'm Carol Phillips. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've learned some great tips from our podcast to help you take your leadership skills to a whole new level. Let me tell you about our amazing guest today. Maureen Beauregard is the president and CEO of Easterseals in New Hampshire and Vermont, having joined the organization in 2019. In 1991, Maureen founded Families in Transition, FIT, in New Hampshire, which grew under her leadership to be the state's largest homes services organization. Since joining Easterseals, she has steered the organization through the COVID-19 pandemic and a strategic planning process, and has spearheaded several large-scale infrastructure projects which will benefit Easterseals clients and their families. Maureen has received numerous well-deserved awards throughout her career, including the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce's Citizen of the Year Award. As we enjoy our conversation with Maureen today, I encourage you to find one or two new leadership skills you can use to help your team thrive, beginning today. Now, let's chat with Maureen. Welcome to the show, Maureen.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, I love talking about Easterseals and all the good things that we do.
They are absolutely terrific.
Thank you.
I want to start off by asking you to share with our listeners whatever you'd like to share regarding your journey.
When I think about my journey in the not-for-profit sector and as a leader, it doesn't matter that it's a not-for-profit sector. I think it's just been an interesting journey in that I never imagined myself to be where I am today. And, you know, the possibilities I feel are limitless for all of us if we work hard and we're open to opportunities that come our way. That's how I feel about my leadership journey.
That's amazing. What you've accomplished is mind-boggling, and I want to congratulate you on all the awards you've received over the years, which are such a testament to your tireless work and the incredible impact you've made in the community.
Thank you for that. And, I have been the leader of Families in Transition and Easterseals and have received awards. And it's wonderful that I get to represent the organization in those awards. And as a leader, it's really important that we know that we did not achieve this alone, and that there are people to the side of us, behind us, ahead of us that have really led us to be recognized in that way.
Yes, and great leaders always share the credit. And I love that we have that ripple effect of everything we do that's good is going to have direct and indirect benefits, and they go on and on.
I would agree with that. And it's interesting. I started Families in Transition in 1991, and I'll see people that we worked with in the program, and they are so kind and sweet, and their lives have been permanently changed as a result of it, as well as staff, finding someone who comes in at a certain level in the organization and then is hungry to learn. And that learning really, to me, is critical to becoming the next leader. So there are these ripple effects, and we never know how far out those ripples go, but I've been around long enough to know that they exist.
Right, absolutely. And we all want to be continuing to pass that great baton on to others. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Easterseals, because I know people who have benefited from the services at Easterseals, including my mom, who had Alzheimer's, and we had gotten to the point where she really needed to be out doing something with loving eyes over her to take care of her. And so my mother ended up going to Easterseals 3 days a week, and it was just an amazing experience where she could not have been treated better. Every day she walked in, they act like they hadn't seen her in a year. And, welcome, Pauline. It's so good to see you again. Can I make you a cup of tea? There was fun activities planned. It's amazing that the difference that it made for us and our family.
Mhm. I think that's a very special program. And, I go down there often and I see the folks that are in that program. I also know the staff. It's super important to the staff that when you walk through the door as a consumer, that you know that you're important and it's real, it's authentic, caring, and nurturing. And when I think about the adult day program, prior to the pandemic, we had a full house every day, and then the pandemic hit and it had to close. And now we're trying to rebuild the program. And not to be morose, but so many of the folks, most who were in that adult day program passed away. And it really is a testament to the need for interaction, recreation, stimuli in a way that our program does that. So we're now trying to rebuild that program, and we're kind of stuck. Like, is the community ready to send their loved ones back? And we're here, and we're open, and we're ready to have loved ones come into that program because it is so special.
Yes, definitely so special. I agree 100%. The pandemic was horrible in so many ways, but it also taught many people about all the needs in our community. So we got some value out of it because now people know we need to be taking care of each other.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And over the course of, I came on in 2019, and in October and then March was the order from the state. And it was a little overwhelming, I have to say, to come into an organization of this size and have to deal with something of that magnitude. But what was amazing, Carol, was that the folks that we served were always front and center. It wasn't about, leadership. The staff were very selfless in a way that, we talk about heroes, we talk about good people, we talk about people who go the extra mile. Those are the people that work here. There are times, everything we do is outward facing, direct client contact. And with the adult day program, we had to close it down and people had to stay home with their loved ones. We have residential programs, a lot of them, and there's no option to close those. And what really made the difference to the folks that we serve are the folks who always work with them every day. They moved in with people. They stayed for days at a time, all because they really love the folks that we work with. And that's what you experienced in our adult day program when your mom was there.
That's amazing. And kudos to all of them.
It's all about the staff. It's all about the folks that do the work. We have to understand that we can have a mission, we can have a vision, we can have a strategic plan, we can build the best facilities at a first class, which we are doing. Without that first class staff, there is nothing, because they are that bridge to those we serve, and they have to come first. The staff have to come first in order to do the best we can for those who rely on us.
Yes, we're all pieces of that important puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maureen, I love how more and more companies are focusing on creating a company culture where leaders and all team members are encouraged to have a growth mindset. Please talk to us about how you incorporate this at Easterseals, and what are some of the benefits of having a growth mindset that you value most?
I think about growth mindset, and I'm at an age where I can look back and I can see that it's something that I valued throughout my entire life. And I entered the foster system when I was 4, and then went to UNH. I somehow figured that out and ended up on the other side. And in order to really get through a state system and all the moves, there has to be some sort of faith, hope, and growth mindset that there's something more, there's something better. And at Families in Transition, the program was, it's a strength-based perspective, and we can look at our lives. Clients can look at their lives and say, I don't have this, I don't have this, and I don't have this. I remember talking to a mom with a baby, and I said, but what you do have is that you asked for help, and you're protecting your baby, and you have possibility. And it's really turning around the things that you don't have and really trying to grow on the things that you do have from the strength-based perspective. And to me, that is a growth mindset. So at Easterseals, Families in Transition, I was there 28 years, and it was a hard decision to leave something that I started, but I also knew that it belonged to the community. It didn't belong to me. And I always wanted to be at Easterseals because my sister was here as a kid. But at Easterseals, coming into COVID, and then I knew right away as a new leader, following somebody who had worked here for 50 years, that I really needed to really put a stake in the ground and say, Easterseals is fabulous. And going forward, this is how much more fabulous it's going to be. Our entire strategic plan is based on having a growth mindset. It's based on having a strength-based perspective in order to achieve excellence in the way that we work with folks in our facilities, how we are as professionals. And we got that strategic plan done. And it was hard, it's like, here's COVID and you're doing a strategic plan. There's no better time to do it. So Easterseals is a big organization, 1,500 staff. We touch 18,000 people a year. Our budget is over $130 million. And when I say $130 million, I talk about mission impact. That buys the best for the folks that we serve. And when we look at moving forward, it was great. The Easterseals I stepped into was great. And now what are we going to do for the next 75 years for Easterseals? And having a growth mindset is essential to be able to achieve that. We have to imagine and be curious and have desires to be better than we've ever been.
Wow, I love that. And just having that selfless mindset and saying, how can we get from point A to point B, and let's do it. And it also is amazing that you were there such a short time before COVID hit, and how blessed were they that you were coming in with so much experience.
As a leader stepping into an organization that had been operating the same way, it's, for some, it's a blessing. For others, it might be seen as a curse, because we get comfortable, we do things a certain way. And, it became very clear to me that Easterseals is great and it could keep on doing what it's doing. But also the world changed after COVID, during and after COVID. The nonprofit sector was changing even before that. It's the law of diminishing returns. Who's out there? How do we share? How do you raise money when there's so many of us? And in really moving to a business model that keeps its mission first. And so coming into an organization and moving it, really moving that culture towards a growth mindset, perhaps really like testing people's limits on their comfort, it wasn't easy. And it's something that I think that over the course, I'll be here 5 years in October, I think we've made significant headway, and we have more to do. Growth mindset is an ongoing and continuous process of improvement. And I'm naturally a curious person. Like, I want to know. I have a 4-year-old grandson who's so curious, and I love him because we get to learn together. And at Easterseals, I love to learn, I love to wonder, and I love to be curious. And that is the best hope for Easterseals, is that we all take that on. We can't be sedentary, and we need to always look for how can technology help us? How can we make our facilities better? How do we work on developing our staff? And how do we move towards sustainability in all programs, financial sustainability? In some, we can, in others, we can't, but at least we have that goal. And that's having a growth mindset.
Yes. And I like what you were talking about, the mission. And when I work with business leaders, I love to remind them of having great, positive policies and missions in place that people can keep going back to help remind everybody to stay on the same page and moving forward. And I also loved how you were talking about people reaching out for help. Our society sees that sometimes as a weakness, and it's not. And we all need to be doing that. And even I struggle with that in my personal life, asking other people for help. I'm happy to give and give and give, but there needs to be that balance. We do need to learn to reach out for help so that we can all be helping each other.
I would agree. And, Easterseals is one of the largest nonprofits in the state, aside from hospitals. Hospitals are a lot bigger. And as the organization grew, there can be segmentation in the work that we do. And people can get comfortable in that segmentation. I do this, I do this, I do this, and I do this, you do this, and then you do this. What we're doing at Easterseals is we're really looking at, changing the culture to one of curiosity, growth mindset, and also integration. So it's not about just going down, it's about going across and really bringing the team together in a way that, I mean, they did have meetings together, but really integrating and getting them on board with the growth mindset, the strength-based perspective, curiosity. And I feel like the results, people are really excited about what we're doing. When we were doing the strategic plan, I think that, different people had different ideas about how that was going to be done. It was really clear to me that the staff needed to be from the ground up, and it needed to meet the board and leadership on the way up and come to a common understanding of what our plan was going to be. But having the staff be such a part of it was so good for them. And imagine the growth mindset that was apparent when those conversations started happening about how do you vision what you're doing going forward. And it's, we can get stuck in the day to day, but it's so important that we always look up and out.
Yes, I totally agree. Related to that, Maureen, I've had my fair share of jobs over the years in which management was less than open, honest, and transparent in providing information and practicing healthy communication with everyone. And I believe there were times when it was due to inexperience or just not realizing the benefits of being transparent. But I've also had experiences where it seemed to be used in an unhealthy way to wield control over team members. Sometimes it can be just inexperience. Can you talk to us about what transparency and leadership means to you and what advice you would give to new leaders?
When I look at transparency in leadership, I look at that as an absolute journey, just like growth mindset is. And when I can look back on myself and be like, gosh, I could have done better in this. And now I have almost 20/20 vision on what it needs to be. And it's a process. So, there can be a disconnect between the people who make the decisions and then people who are boots on the ground, those leaders. At Easterseals, this has been, we made a lot of growth, a lot of progress in growth mindset, transparency and leadership. I feel like having the staff formulate the strategic plan. That's transparency about how we get from A to B, sharing that with them. We need to do more here. And in this coming year, we're really going to focus more on, different ways of communicating with people at varied levels in the organization. And nothing should be a secret. And we need to share everything. When people know what the plan is, when people understand where we're going, then, and we share information freely, they're more willing to keep that bus moving forward. I feel like we've done a good job in our efforts to move that forward, but we have a lot more work to do here. What I envision in the end is that I get to know people, I get to hear from them, they get to hear from me, they get to understand what's happening throughout the organization. They will have a working understanding of the strategic plan. They will have a voice in issues pertaining to the organization, whether it's through surveys, interviews, work groups, whatever. And their voices will be heard. Basically, what I just said, their voices will be heard, and our voices will carry through the organization. I think that there was a perception of everything's top down. I don't know that we've broken through that all the way. Perhaps with some we have, but we need to do a whole lot more so that folks feel like there's no wondering, you don't have to feel like people are doing things to you, and which, people bring themselves to their jobs, and their history can inform what they think. It's incumbent upon us to over communicate about the who, what, why, where kind of things in the organization. It's a big organization. We've taken some really big bites out of our strategic plan. This one is the one that really needs to come to the front in the coming year and years ahead.
I totally agree. And that this topic can be so complex, and I love talking to business leaders and connecting the dots with the team members' health and wellness, and why it's a big part of them trusting who they work for when they feel that the people leading them are being transparent, especially their direct supervisor, because the brain wants to feel like we need to feel like we can trust before our brain can be more creative and productive. Sometimes I'll have business leaders say, well, I don't want to tell them too much, they might get stressed. Well, they might be a little stressed, but it's giving their brain an opportunity to feel that you trust them to deal with this information, and also give them the opportunity to help you problem solve. So that can be a two-way street. I've also had business leaders say to me, sometimes I'm not ready to give them all the information because I'm afraid that then they're going to be asking for X, Y, and Z. And I can't give that. I can't give that to them. But it's not that team members always want to get what they want. It's they want to feel like they're included and they're being given all the information that's fair for them to have.
I think that, I can relate to that. I don't want to let people, I don't want people to feel let down. There are times where we might have a new project, and of course we need to have staff input on a facility, and at the same time it might not come to fruition and people can feel let down, or it may not go completely their way. So as a leader, I'm maybe too cautious in that arena, because not because I want to hold the information as power, but because I don't want to let people down. And it's something that I feel that I'm continuing to work on. As an organization, I feel like we are definitely moving in the direction of transparency, starting with our strategic plan, how it was made. And this year is the year of communication. We need to have town halls. I need to go and talk to staff. I need to go and see folks that we serve. And it's not just me, it's all leadership. I believe that life is about relationships. And when people get to know you, that goes a long way in people wanting to be a part of things and be a part of the solution. And it's not just about knowing me, but as the leader of the organization, they need to know what I'm thinking, like more than they do right now. And that's a part of the plan, but also the leaders, like, and then what about different departments? Are you going out? Are you going out and listening? Are you visiting? Does finance, does HR, does one program go and visit another? Does IT go and visit? Like, we need to be clear that about the importance of the folks that do the work, and building relationships really helps in that transparency and leadership, because they get to know who you are. They get to know who the leaders are and what they think and feel. And that's important.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Employees need to feel appreciated, and there is that balance with the transparency and developing those great relationships. The next thing I want to talk to you about is one of my favorite parts of positive and supportive leadership, and that is appreciating all team members and making sure every person knows they're valued and appreciated. Please talk to us about this important topic.
You know, with the staff of about 1,500, this is a daunting task, and it's one that is central to our strategic plan. And we have to keep taking bites of this as we move forward. And, you know, I try super hard to have the folks that I work with know that I appreciate them. And then as a complete staff, it can get fragmented. It's not done on a sustained level, but I do feel that in our plan, we are moving forward with this. Again, I talked about what's next in regards to that strategic plan. And that really is looking at and hearing more from the folks that we serve. I mean, from the staff. And we're building the administrative capacity to ensure that that people, a part of appreciating is really listening. And, you know, and we're setting that up in the organization. We have some smart people who are really grassroots, reaching out and working with folks on being heard. And then as an organization, you know, over the course of the past few years, we've invested millions of dollars in staff salaries. When it comes to healthcare costs, we didn't pass on any increases. And, you know, our goal is to really have staff feel appreciated through their benefits, their salary and their benefits. But also when I show up to work, how do I know that you care about me? And that is the work that we're doing now. And it's, you know, we're starting with the leadership team and really switching a culture. And now it needs to it's like a funnel. It has to keep going down and down and down. And at the same time, we're working down and up so that people feel appreciated when they go to work. Development opportunities. How are we helping people? How are we attracting people, and how are we keeping them? There's a lot of things we could be doing, but when people come to work, they need to know that they matter and that they're appreciated. If they don't, they're just going to leave. And when you look at the shortage in staff right now, we got to hire 3 people today, Carol. We need to keep the ones we have. We need to attract and keep them. And the way to keep them is appreciation through salary, benefits, development opportunities. And when they walk in that door, they know that they matter.
Right. And oftentimes it's just the little things. It's the, oh, you know, I see that you're stressed out today, or hi, how was your weekend? We're so glad to have you here. Yeah, it is. It's all those things where we're listening to team members why they've left previous jobs or what they're struggling with right now, and having that great open communication.
Mm-hmm. Coming into Easterseals and having COVID and all of that, I really needed to keep my head down and work on the day-to-day, look at systems, really look at the strategic plan, build a team. And we've had a lot of successes since I've started, and it's us as a team that created that. Now I need to look more up and out, and and staff are central to that looking up and out. I want to look out for them, but I also want to see them. I want them to know that I see them in all these different ways. And not only do I see them, other leadership people see them, the community sees them, the board of directors sees them. I think that all of that is super important. When we look at workforce today, there's an emphasis on people working from home. And during COVID, I came in every day, and I'm not patting myself on the back. And the reason I did that is because I can go home tonight and I can be in my own bed. I'm not at our res ed program for 3 days or at our community-based services home with adults with disabilities for a week. And I'm not, doing that day to day. And I felt like it was important that whether they knew it or not, that I was here, that I made the drive, that I was here, and that I was in support of them. And we have leaders in the organization, and I've said 1 day from home from work is fine. You need to be assigned a day. The rest of the time you're in. Could they do their jobs from home? Probably could do it a lot more, have more time at home to get it done. I feel like if we are asking people to come in and do the hardest work ever, like working with people like your mom, being there, being on, residential education, whatever it is, home health, we need to show up in this office and show the people here that we're serious about being one of them, that we're all one.
Yes, there is that definite balance, right? And the brain wants to connect. They want to see, people in action doing their thing. And I like how you talked about, because of COVID, you had to come in, and for a while, or when you were new there, you had to come in and you had to, put your head down to get things back up and running again. But then at some point you knew, you had to put your head up and connect. Sometimes when I'm working with business leaders, there's a big disconnect between them and their team members because they have their head down all the time. And they think that spending the time having their head up and making connections and building those relationships isn't important, but it really is important.
People want to know they matter. And I have an awesome team that I work with, and I have a board of directors that I respond to, and I connect with them. And that connection that I have with them and the team makes me want to do more. I know that I matter. I know that we all are working together towards this thing called Easterseals, and it makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely. Maureen, I want to shift gears now. And in a Business NH magazine interview, you were quoted as saying, "Whoever walks in the door, we want to work with you. This is how we operate. People come to us with a need, and we need to be ready to fulfill it. We will succeed, we will hire, and we will get this done. We will keep working it until we find a way to get it done." I can't tell you how much I love this. And it reminds me of when I was in the Manchester Chamber's leadership program, and we did our volunteer day at Outfitters Thrift Store. And for the listeners who don't know, Outfitters Thrift Store is a part of Families in Transition, and 100% of the store's proceeds go directly toward supporting and funding Families in Transition's mission to prevent and break the cycle of homelessness in New Hampshire. And personally, I love donating to Outfitters because I know my donations have a direct link to making a difference in the community. Anyway, while I was there for our volunteer day, I saw a t-shirt that said, "You can sit with us." And I just love that, just that inclusive mindset. And, if somebody is feeling alone and left out. And so I took a picture of it and I posted it on social media because I think the message is so important to keep putting out into the world. And Easterseals also has that wonderful core message. For leaders who struggle with connecting the dots between taking great care of the team and trusting that they'll pass that on to people or clients or customers that they serve, what would you tell them?
I've had this like philosophy. I don't know when I created it or when I connected the dots on it, but I feel like we're here for two reasons: to love and be loved and to serve others. And for the majority of people, that is what to love and be loved, that, sitting with others is really, really the lifeblood of community, of an organization, of how we are in this world, I feel. And, value, we feel valued when we can sit at the table, when we are part of something else. And that is critical to leadership. And if I come into an organization and I don't see you and I don't value you and I don't think you should be at the same table as me, I wonder how they are successful. You can have people who run businesses, who make money, and staff are just miserable. And they stay because perhaps they have no other options for their skill set or whatever. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in having people who are I want you to be happy to come to work and happy to go home. If you're happy at work, the folks we serve are going to be really happy. They're going to get the best care, and the best outcomes. And whether you're doing widgets or you are, working with people like we do, I feel like people are more than willing and want to help with that mission success when that environment exists.
Yes, I totally agree. It's that circle, right, of the CEO or the business owners focusing on keeping their management team feeling happy and safe and productive, and then them focusing on the people that they serve. And then it comes around full circle. It's just a beautiful circle that keeps going round.
Yes, I would agree. And it's so important, in particular when you're working with people. It just is.
Right, absolutely. People and vulnerable populations for
Mm.
sure. And like you were saying, I use that widget analogy because it is. We have to remember, especially if we're working with people, that it's extra important.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen, I'm sure you have countless inspiring stories you've experienced over the years. Do you have a favorite you can share with us today?
Sure. I'm going to share something on a personal level that has affected my work choices and my desire to do well, for others. So I told you I grew up in foster care, and there were five of us when I entered the system. And my youngest sister, I was in the middle, two above, two below. My sister Carolyn was the youngest, and she was born with a disability. And when we entered foster care, back in the 70s, there wasn't anything about keeping families connected, kids connected, even though you weren't with your parents. So I wasn't able to see my two youngest siblings, Carolyn being one of them. And I was in a foster home. I did get to see my two oldest siblings, sporadically. And so I was in this foster home. I was young, it was only the 70s. So I was probably like 8, 9, or 10. I don't know the date specifically, but I was in this foster home that I didn't like, and all of a sudden on the TV it showed the Easterseals telethon, and it was on the TV, and suddenly it showed this man, I assume was Larry Gammon, and this young girl, Maureen Beauregard, and all of a sudden my sister was in my living room on my TV.
Wow.
And that just like seared in my brain, that image of her. And I was so proud of her. And you know, when kids' lives are disrupted, like all we have is each other. And when that's taken away, there's just this huge void. And seeing her really never left my mind's eye. I can see it today. So, I, grew up in foster care and I eventually went to UNH, made it through there. And I was a social worker for the state. And then I started Families in Transition back in 1991. I started the Outfitters thrift store, which I'm so proud of that it's still continuing. But I always had it in my mind's eye. I remember saying when I was early in my career, someday I'd love to run Easterseals. And I'm like, who is this kid who thinks that she could run an organization the size of Easterseals? You know what I mean? Then I met Larry Gammon just a few years before he retired, and I ended up getting the job. And I was in his office and I said, Larry, my sister was an Easter Seal poster child. And he's like, who was it? And I go, Maureen Beauregard. His face lit up and he exuded love and care and told me stories about my sister.
Wow.
Things that, like, I connected with someone who knew her and loved and cared about her. And then he sent me a picture of her. And I actually have it on my computer. And I am so grateful. And it's also hanging in my office. So then Larry was going to retire and he's like, Maureen, I'm going to retire. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, I'm retiring. And I'm like, oh, not in a million years, Carol, did I ever think that of all the applicants, they would ever choose Maureen Beauregard because I'm
Wow.
forever that foster kid, right? So, much to my surprise, they hired me, and I met my sister once as an adult, and then she moved away. But I connected with her on Facebook, and we got to talk. And she said if it wasn't for Easter Seal, she never would have walked, and that she loved Larry Gammon, and that basically these people were like family to her, and she felt loved, a sense of belonging, and she spent a lot of years here. And she said she was proud of me. Um,
Oh,
it was my hope that eventually I could invite her and other child reps to an annual celebration, but she passed away a year later.
oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
but you know what, Carol? I get to sit in an office in a building, and she's with me every day. And in my mind's eye, I can see her. These are the halls where all of this happened. I can imagine her walking these halls, feeling like she's all that in a bag of chips. And, for me, it's full circle. Families in Transition was about housing and rehousing my family of origin. And Easter Seals, to me, is closing the loop and really having peace around so many things as a kid. And to know that this connection to my sister carried through, it just allows me to honor that and to know that, time can go by, but, love lives.
Right. Wow. That is one of the most amazing and inspirational stories I've ever heard. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that people were there for her. I'm sorry for what all of you went through. And once we know better, we do better, right? As far
Mhm.
as trying to keep siblings
Yeah.
together.
We have an
Um,
amazing program here at Easter Seals. It's like we're Easter Seals New Hampshire and Vermont. And I learned about it and I was like, holy cow, this is a model for how child welfare should be run. And I absolutely have an affinity for that program. It's statewide, it's done the right way. They do this thing where they sit with families and kids and they can map out not just family, but friends, connections, and then they work to maintain those so that there isn't this, okay, one day you're just not a part of anything.
mhm.
And that's just one thing that they do. And it's really, really sweet.
Right. And it's funny you said how in a million years would they choose you? But I would say, how in a million years would they not choose you,
Mm,
Maureen?
mm. It just is so interesting to be on a journey and to end up where I am. I think, in part it's because New Hampshire is a small town, and we make connections along the way, and it allowed me to do what I'm doing for sure, being
Yes.
in New Hampshire. Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is amazing. Talk about a full circle story.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. All right, Maureen, it's time for Coach Carol's quick quiz. Are
Here
you
we go.
ready?
Yes.
I'm going to throw some questions at you just for fun, and so our listeners can learn a little bit more about you. There's 5 questions. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. Question 1. What movie could you watch 100 times and not get sick of it?
Color Purple.
That was quick.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie. I love the main character.
How many times have you watched it?
Many.
Many.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, number 2. What was a huge aha moment in your life that people may not know?
That I worked on a fishing boat out of Rye Harbor and fished for lobsters with my friend Harold Mace.
Do you love lobster?
I love fishing. I mean, I'll eat them, but I just love the water.
Yeah. I
Yep.
know. There's just something so therapeutic
Oh,
about it.
it makes me so happy, Carol.
Yes. As
Yep.
soon as I get to the beach, my brain is happy.
Yeah.
And we need to do more of what makes our brains happy.
Yes.
All right, number 3, cake or ice cream?
Oh, ice cream every day.
What flavor?
Either cookies and cream or black raspberry.
I love both.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's true. We have our favorites, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cake would be my mother's carrot cake, homemade carrot cake recipe. I can't buy carrot cake in a store because nothing compares.
Yeah. I
But
do like having them both together, just so you know. I
yeah,
love frosting. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yes. I know people think I'm weird sometimes because like at a party they'll be serving cake and they'll ask me if I want ice cream and I'll say no, thank you. And they look at me like I have 2 heads.
Mm-hmm. I love ice cream.
All right. Number 4, name something you're terrible at.
Paddle I just fell off and broke my ribs, and I don't know why I don't have the balance for it, but oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. Of course, I'm like, I gotta get this right. So I'm gonna keep trying, Carol.
There you go. There
Mm-hmm.
you go. A little progress each day, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
well, broken ribs will kind of make you hesitate doing something again.
No, not really.
No,
No, got to get back on the horse.
there you go.
Yep.
That's funny. All right, number 5. What is your definition of success?
At the end, it really is about having that internal satisfaction at the end of the day. And for me, it's really knowing that I'll go back to we're here to love and be loved and to serve others. That's it. That's how I know. That's what I
Yes,
like at the end of the day, to know that.
that's amazing. I love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's all about the kindness, being kind to ourselves and being kind
Yeah.
to others.
Yes.
Yep. I sometimes think that that's the meaning of why we're here is
Mm,
how much are we taking care of each other?
mm. Yep, I agree.
Thank you so much for being such a great sport.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Maureen, before we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to have the listeners get to know Easterseals more and to understand the leadership style and what we do here, and that we have a strategic plan. And if anybody is in need, by all means, give us a call. Go to our website, eastersealsnh.org, and look for things you might need. We have child development centers, residential education. We have community-based services. We have senior housing, senior services, veterans program, substance misuse, by all means, give us a call.
Thank you so much. Yes, you offer so much more than people may know based on, like with me and my mom.
Yeah.
I know the services she used, but what else is available? So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Sure.
Maureen, thank you so much for being with us today. I also want to thank you not only for the immeasurable ways you've helped countless members of our community, which is so incredible, but how you've taught so many people about the importance of all of us taking care of each other.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Listeners, you can learn more about Maureen and Easterseals at Easterseals NH.org. If you're looking for a great organization to donate to, go to their website and click on the donate button in the upper right-hand corner. Every dollar counts and every donation makes a difference. And as always, a big thank you to all the business leaders listening today who are making their companies the best places to work. Be on the lookout for our next podcast and make today a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with Carol Phillips. Be sure to click on the subscribe button so you won't miss any new episodes. Join our online leadership dream team at AskCoachCarol.com. If you're looking for an engaging speaker for your next event or an effective trainer to strengthen your leadership team, contact Coach Carol today. Thanks again for listening and make it a great day.